Hi kids! Today I'm going to teach you a little bit about how we decide what blessings to make over food that grows from the ground. So there's only two brachot that fall into this category. One is Borei Priya Eitz and one is Borei Priya Adama. So what we need to figure out is how do we tell the difference between fruit that gets, or fruit or vegetables that get the bracha Borei Priya Eitz, or fruit or vegetables that get the bracha Borei Priya Adama. Now, sometimes it seems very obvious to us that a food grows on a tree or that it grows on the ground. As you can see in this picture here, that most of us would say pretty clearly that an orange grows on a tree. It looks like a tree, and it is a tree. I call it an orange tree, so people clearly think of that as an eitz. And looking at lettuce plants, it seems pretty clear to us that they grow on the ground. But what do we do about things that are unclear? Here is a blueberry bush. Is it a tree? Does it grow on the ground? How are we going to make the decision? So by the end of this lesson, I'm hoping that it'll be clear to you how that designation is made. Here are a few other plants that don't fall easily into one category or another. Up here in the left-hand corner, you see raspberries. We call it a raspberry bush, but what we call it isn't really what's most important here. We need to figure out how the rabbis decided which kind of bracha it would get. Here's that blueberry bush we saw before, and here are grapes. They grow on a vine. What's that? So let's move on and see what we learn from the rabbi. The rabbis recognized that in order to make this work, the word that needed to be defined for us is the word tree. Obviously, anything that doesn't get Borei Priya Eitz is going to get Borei Priya Adama. So the important definition here that needs to be figured out is how did the rabbis define the word tree? Once we know that, it should be easy for us to figure out how to use the brachot. So let's start with this plant in our garden. It doesn't matter what kind of plant that it is. What you should notice is that there is a plant above ground. It's got fruit on it, and there are roots below ground. And it's now the end of the season, and it's time for us to harvest our fruit. As we harvest our fruit and we put it all here in the basket, what we're going to end up with is a plant without fruit on it. Now you can still see the fruit on it, but imagine that this is now a plant without any fruit on it. It's the end of the summer. The fruit's all in the basket. We brought it inside. We ate it. We froze it. We did whatever we wanted to it. So now we need to watch and see what's going to happen in the next season. So when we come out and we look at our plant in the next season, what we see is that the leaves have fallen off and the branches are the main branches or stalk of the plant is still there, and the roots themselves are still there under the ground. We would have to dig down to see that, but they're still there, and the plant has gone dormant. So that plant is standing there. It's still alive. It just has gone dormant. In the next season, as we come back, these branches right here come back to being vibrant and alive again. They actually never really died. But what we see is this, what looked like this during the winter time, is now going to sprout leaves and start to look like its good old summertime, summertime self. And then what happens is it gets fruit again. The important thing to notice here in this process is that the same plant, the same branches or stalks remain there on the plant, and they might go dormant and lose their leaves here during the winter, but when they come back, the same branches regrow, get leaves on them, and give fruit again. Now this is important because this is what Chazal tells us defines what makes something an eitz. Any plant that gives fruit during the winter, it might lose some leaves, it might look like it's dead, but it is not. It comes back the next season and grows new fruit. This is an eitz, and on any fruit that grows this way, we say the bracha Borei Pri Ha'etz. All right, let's look at a different kind of plant. This one is also starting off some kind of plant growing above ground, roots below ground like every plant. And here we've got some blue fruit of some sort growing on this particular plant. And we want to harvest them again. All right, so here we are. We are going to harvest all of these blue fruits. We're filling up the basket with it. Oh my goodness, at this rate, this is going to take forever, but you get the idea. We take all of the fruit off of that because it's the end of the season and it's ready for us. And we harvest our fruit. We take it inside. And now there's no fruit left anymore on this particular plant. So let's see what happens. Oops, I didn't mean to move all of that. Let's see what happens next season. So now we come to this season, and what's happened here? Well, what we see is that, let me move that arrow a little bit for you. When we look at this season, we see that what's happened here is that the plant has died down from the top of the earth entirely. There are still roots underneath, but what we don't see anymore is any plant above ground. Now this ends up being the most important element here for us to look at. If the tree dies down and there's nothing left, or the plant dies down and there's nothing left above ground anymore, then this is what this is what makes it fall into the category of Adama. It is not a tree if the entire plant dies back to the ground. So, what's going to happen in the next season? Well, in this case, this tree is actually going to come and grow back, even though it had died off. So what you see happening next is that the branches regrow, and then after that, we also see the leaves grow. So here are going to be the leaves growing on the plant again. The part above ground, though, is new. It's brand new. Only the roots are the same. So since the part above ground is now new, it now is ready to grow and have fruit, and we go into the same cycle again. So the important thing to remember here is that the part above ground, the branches that we see, disappear entirely during the winter, and they die, and new ones grow again. And because of this, this plant gets the bracha, Borei Pri Ha'adama, because the plant did not survive, the above ground plant did not survive. Now there's one other way that plants grow, and it's similar to this, except for that once we get to the point here, where we're looking in the winter to see what happens, sometimes in some plants the roots die off altogether and they don't regrow. So that is also a case of Adama. If you have to plant a whole new plant in order to get fruit and vegetables again, then it becomes Adama. So we now see what the main difference is between eitz and Adama for the brachot. If a fruit is going to get the bracha eitz, it's because the plant remains and gives fruit again. If it is not an eitz, then what we're going to see is that the plant above ground dies, or the whole plant dies. Okay, the plant dies in the winter, and then either, number one, regrows to give more fruit, or has to be replanted to get more fruit. So now we have our definition. So what I'd like you to do is, now that you've watched this and you know the definition, check the email that came to you along with your assignments today. And in that email, it's going to give you an assignment telling you one fruit that I want you to do a little research on the internet. I want you to find out a few things about your plant so that we can find out what bracha to make. So once you know what fruit or vegetable you're researching, your main job is to find out how it grows and whether the plant that it grows on remains around and grows the food another season, or if it dies off and either has to be replanted or grows new branches. So, here's one little clue for you. If at any point you see reference to the fact that your plant needs to be pruned during the winter, that means that that people who grow that plant need to trim the branches during the winter, not all the way back, but a little bit so that they'll grow better the next year. Anytime anything like that is being done, it's because those same branches will grow fruit again in the following summer. So that's an absolute clue that your plant is considered an ACE. Good luck with your project. I look forward to seeing it from you. Let's see, when do you next have me tomorrow? You have me tomorrow afternoon? I'll check. It'll say in the email what day you're seeing me and when it's due. Thanks so much. Bye.